Hello? Rescue hooks to rescue, Mayday! Get ahead, West. Fast Mayday, what's your location? Get the hell out of here, hurry up! We need radio silence, I need water in that 2.5-inch line. 48 inch water to the 2.5-inch line. Give me the rope, the rope. 35 in the rear, 35 in the rear.
Welcome to the Emergency Traffic Podcast. Hello and welcome again to the Emergency Traffic Podcast, where we talk about firefighters and paramedic line of duty deaths and learn from these tragic events to potentially prevent them from happening in the future. I'm Paul, and today I'm joined by my co-hosts, Doug and Dirk. Hey guys, how's it going today?
It's going good, Paul. Nice to be back. I'm on 6 days off from work, so it's nice to just sit back and relax and hang out with the family for a while and be a dad. And yeah, not much new going on. The Oilers won, which is nice. It's nice to have hockey back. They play again tonight, so hopefully they win again, and hopefully the Flames start to lose. But
Right on, right on. Dirk, how about you? You're in the middle of a block, right?
I'm in the middle of the block. Yeah, going to go to work tonight. Well, only a couple of nights, and then I'm going to be on 6
yeah,
off.
usually I'm the one that has to work tonight, but for once we're on a day
Yeah.
Dirk has to work.
It's the other way around. Yeah, that's
Nice.
fine. Yeah, I just cleaned up the yard a little bit, got everything ready for the big snowstorm that's going to come at some point.
We've been pretty lucky with weather, though. It's almost Halloween, and it has barely been below zero. It hasn't snowed yet. Calgary got snow, but they deserve it. So
Yeah, I know. I put the winter tires on the truck and got everything all put away for snow, but hopefully it stays nice for a bit longer. We're missing Zach today. He's at work, so he couldn't make it this afternoon. So.
yeah, Zach just does the hard work for all this stuff. We just sit here and talk. Zach does the hard.
He does. Yeah, has to edit out all our. Oh, I better turn my cell phone down. He gave us heck about that. Remember to turn your cell phone ringers off so you don't get bleeped during the thing.
Yeah, he gave you shit for that one, didn't he?
Yeah, he gave us all heck for sure. Yeah, so besides your on days off, you've been watching hockey, any reading or videos or movies or anything good?
No, just I don't know. I don't even know what shows we're watching, but just to kill some time, hang out. We still hang out with our exchange student, so that's good. He started talking a lot. That's good for him, I guess. And I did get a new book. Very excited to start reading it if I ever get to it. It's the 9 L's, Key Concepts for Building a High Performance Culture by Coley Moore. Fantastic podcast, The Weekly Scrap. Highly recommend it. And I'm excited to read the 9 L's. And
Nice.
I could never figure out, okay, I know it's about leadership. What are the 9 L's? If I could come up with L's in leadership, and I couldn't, so I had to look it up. So I'm already very excited. So
Cool. Great. Yeah, I've been busy working with my disaster and emergency management students and my courses that I do with them, and I've been teaching quite a few incident command system courses the last few weeks here. So doing all the different levels. Even did a ICS 300 in French last week. That was a chore with our friend Julian, who helped out on that as well. And so that was fun. We had a good time, got to know each other a little bit over 3 days of virtual learning with some people, federal government staff from Eastern Canada, and renewing my first aid on Saturday. So I got to keep that up and taking a bunch of webinars.
All the fun stuff, Paul? ICS and first aid.
Yeah.
Oh.
I know. I taught 100. I said to some colleagues this morning on a coffee chat, probably one of the most boring courses in the world to teach, ICS 100. But I managed to try to keep it interesting with lots of stories. So
I don't think it gets more excited at 200 or 300. I took my 200 and that was a snoozer. That's 2 days of my life I'll never get back.
It's all on your instructor, man. It's all about the instructor. So I do a really good 200 and 300. Trust me.
Sure, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So What else? I was going to mention something else, but now I've been taking some webinars online for performing arts, emergency management for performing arts. So that's been kind of interesting. It's a whole new area of emergency management that I hadn't really participated in. So,
That's what
us
I do when
locals.
I'm in command of a fire. It's performing arts.
Oh, ho, ho,
I'm acting
perform.
and pretending to be somebody that I'm not,
Right.
and hope for the best.
I did that for 10 years as a chief. Yeah, pretended to be something I'm not. Exactly. Oh, Doug agrees with me on that one. Yeah.
You have a shout out.
Yes, we do. We have a shout out to our friends over at the Beyond the Breakers podcast, which is sort of the impetus of why I wanted to do this podcast. They were my inspiration. I wanted to do it, but Beyond the Breakers sort of give me the push, and they do a podcast about shipwrecks and lessons learned and lives lost and stuff like that. So, and they give us a great shout out in episode 81. They're way ahead of us in episodes. They're much more popular. But and I guest starred on one of them long ago. I can't remember which. It was about the French, the Normandy that burned in New York Harbor, and that's why I was on there as a guest. But yeah, thanks a lot for the kudos they've been giving us, and they've been listening, and they find our subject matter detail fascinating to learn about. So that's kind of cool. Thanks a lot for that.
When you brought that up, Paul, that they've been listening, it kind of made me realize that maybe not everybody that listens to our podcast is a firefighter. I mean, I always just assume that it would be firefighters that listen, but I mean, maybe it is interesting to non-firefighters. I don't know.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's what I was thinking. And if you listen to what they say and talk about it, it's interesting that they see it as a bit of a window into detailed firefighting and the issues we face during an attack, if you will, a fire attack, and the whole management thing and everything. Good. Okay. Well, so this week's incident that we're going to get into here is a incident that occurred back in October of 2001. A 40-year-old male captain and died, and another captain was injured while fighting a fire at a fifth-floor high-rise. It's actually in Dallas, Texas, and so the fire department serves a city of about 1.8 million residents and 618 square miles. They employ 3,400 personnel. It didn't tell me how many stations and all that kind of stuff. I guess we could look that up as we move along here. Back in 2001. The department requires all firefighters to complete the 640-hour recruit class and 240 technician training before they're assigned to stations. All new firefighters do a 12-month probation. The captain who unfortunately passed away during this fire was no rookie. He had 20 years experience, obviously a well-experienced member of the crew. The incident was at a high-rise building that was built in 1980, so it was 21 years old at the time. It was 41 stories high above grade. The first floor was mainly lobby, service facilities, conference rooms, and office spaces. Storage units were located on the second floor, and then floors 3 through 15 contained 8 apartments on each, and the remaining floors above 15 had 4 apartment units on each. The floors were served by 4 passenger elevators and 2 service elevators. These details will become a little important later as we discuss what happened. There was 2 stairwells that were pressurized, and there was 1 C stairwell that only the top was pressurized and open to the roof and the ground level on the Charlie side of the building. Standpipe outlets were located in each of the 2 stairwells. Neither stairwell had any communication capabilities. There was no phones or anything like that. All the common areas were sprinklered, but not the apartments. This incident occurred where automatic sprinkler systems were not required in this building when it was issued a building permit in 1980. Requirements for mandatory sprinkling actually came in this city in 1981, so a year later. So anyway, automatic sprinklers are now required throughout the entire building in all new high-rise buildings in Dallas. I think that's North America wide, actually, although there's many places that have existing buildings that don't have sprinklers. And as we've discussed on the podcast and amongst ourselves, like the UK and Europe, a lot of high rises don't have sprinklers. We've seen that recently in the UK when we talked about the tall aerial in that one episode, Dirk. Okay, get into the meat and potatoes of what happened here during this tragic incident. So October 7th, 2014, about 6:30 in the evening, they called for a structure fire with smoke showing. The initial dispatched units were, I thought I put a note here. I don't see it. Engine 16, engine 14, engine 7, ladder 4, engine 3, tactical unit, and a district chief. Upon arrival, 16 advised it was a working fire. This upgraded the alarm to a working fire, added another district chief and 2 more engines. I think I get into the equipment detail in a minute here. The SCBA, because this was an out of air emergency that occurred in the NIOSH report, they actually examined the SCBA and it was sent to the NIOSH lab to have tests done on it. And 7 performance tests were run. The unit met all the requirements except for the remaining service indicator test. The Vibra alert actually activated prematurely. So before the it would have been 25% in that at that time. I think now the low air alarm, I believe, is at 33 and a third or 30% to give people more time to get out in a mayday or out of air situation. That changed about 4 years ago, I think. The weather, it was a bit windy that day. They had some storms going through the area, and the wind speeds increased with gusts exceeding 19 miles per hour or 17 knots at about 5 a.m. So during the night or during the firefight, they had some wind and weather that affected it. Okay, so the equipment, there was a huge list of equipment that got dispatched, typical with a large North American city, with the exception of some of our neighbors just south of us here who have a team named the Flames. They actually responded quite heavy with 5 engines. Three of them had 3 people and 2 had 4 on them, firefighters staffing. 3 trucks, each with 3 people. 3 chiefs and 2 safety officers and an ambulance. That was the first alarm. The second alarm was 3 more chiefs, because you have to have lots of chiefs, right? It's a good thing. And 4 engines, 3 of them with 3 people on board and 1 with 4, so fully staffed, if you will. I think some of the cities around here actually run 5 on their downtown trucks, just our engines, just to get that extra staffing for big buildings. I don't know, in addition to the kind of traditional 4. They had 3 more trucks, a cascade, a rehab, and a rescue. There was more units dispatched, but that was sort of after the Mayday, and then which brought more people, more alarms. Okay, so at 0400 hours, they were dispatched to the high-rise building and multiple alarm. There was a delay in dispatch. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. Anyway, the engine 2 was the first arriving on scene. That was actually the victim. He was the officer on it. Arrived at the scene, reported to dispatch they had heavy fire showing from the exterior of the building. And he instructed dispatch to go ahead and give him a second alarm. The blue card guys, that'd be like upgrade the box, right? That one for Zach, because he's taking blue card. So the victim and a firefighter, the engineer and operator from engine 2, entered the main lobby. They met with security. The victim and the firefighter had on their full ensemble of turnout gear SCBAs, while the engineer operator was in his station uniform, which is fairly typical in many big cities, especially where it's warmer, where they don't typically wear turnout gear all the time. Security guard informed the crew the fire was on the 5th floor. The security guards led engine 2 to the 5th floor via the Bravo stairwell. The captain, the victim, he searched for the apartment where the fire was located while the firefighter and engineer connected 100 feet of 1.75 inch line to the hose cabinet in the hallway or the stairwell, I'm not sure. A few minutes later, 2 minutes later, the district chief arrived on scene. He assumed command, established incident command post on the alpha side of the building outside. The incident commander ordered engine 28 captain to establish a lobby sector, and the captain met the building security guard in the lobby and secured the elevator keys. The captain and a firefighter from ladder 28, who had arrived on scene, proceeded in the elevator to the 4th floor after being informed by the security guard civilians were trapped in apartment 5052 on the 5th floor. They took the elevator to the 4th floor to give themselves an opportunity to be familiar with the common floor layout. The lobby sector informed the crew of engine 3 So another engine arrived, engine 3, and that they informed them that the fire was on the 3rd floor. From the exterior of the building, the fire appeared to be on the 3rd floor. This conflicted with the initial reports given to dispatch by the residents who reported the fire was on the 5th floor. This led to some confusion as to which floor the backup crews should respond to. Sort of like that one in the UK there, where they really had some confusion about where the fire is. Lobby sector ordered a firefighter from his crew, which was engine 28, he's lobby sector, to assist engine 3 to go to be the backup crew on the 5th floor. Remember, they're going to the 3rd floor. A little bit later, district chief arrived and assumed the lobby sector from captain 28, so captain could go and be assigned with his people. So the 28 captain informed the district chief that engine 2, engine 3, and ladder 28 were all on the fire floor. He then informed them the elevators were not working properly, crews were using the stairwells to reach the fire floor. He then ordered engine 38 and ladder 38 to proceed to the floor above the fire, and he advised central dispatch that they had confirmation of a civilian trapped. At 05:01 hours, so we're talking 7 minutes in here, the victim, the captain of engine 2, advised command that they're on the fire floor 5th and had it laid a hose line and they would lay another. Approximately this time, a weather front did come through, was passing through with the wind increasing and gusting. A minute later, the victim radioed command asking for a second company. So he's looking for backup. Command thought they sent backup, so obviously a red flag there. Or the lobby sector thought they sent backup. The IC replied engine 3 should be there backing them up. Engine 3 crew had taken the elevator to the 2nd floor, believing 3rd floor was the fire floor, going to the floor below, and were unable to locate either of the stairwells because the 2nd floor is a storage floor, so maybe it didn't have the same access. Engine 3 located and assisted a civilian to the elevator and down to the lobby, so they got distracted by a civilian doing rescue. Another minute later, the victim, the captain, advised command he was trying to conduct primary search of the apartments other than the apartment where the fire was located, just to evacuate the floor, and that he was still waiting for backup before entering the fire apartment. Another 2 minutes later, captain from ladder 28, he was initially the lobby guy, and his firefighter reached the 5th floor and met with the captain from engine 2 and firefighter. The firefighter informed captain that he'd forgotten the thermal imaging camera. So the firefighter went to the stairwell and asked the operator from engine 2, he was in his station uniform, to retrieve the tick. Engine 2 operator engineer was unable to return to the 5th floor because he was not wearing any PPE or SCBA, and there was heavy smoke in the stairwell. So he passed the tick to another firefighter on the 2nd floor landing, but the tick never made it to captain of engine 2, who was on the 5th floor. Firefighter number 2 then returned and remained at the entrance to the fire apartment. So they're evacuating the hallway and they're waiting to make a push into the fire apartment, waiting for that backup line. The victim, the captain, and his firefighter and captain from engine 28 made entry into the fire apartment. They encountered heavy black smoke as they entered the apartment, and firefighter of engine 2 manned the nozzle, preceding the captain and the captain from the other engine on the back of the hose line. They made their way forward into the kitchen area before seeing and turning and seeing fire emitting from the foyer area. The firefighter opened the nozzle, began knocking down the fire with the captain and the 2 captains. And another firefighter from engine 28, he was in the doorway pushing hose. While attempting to locate the seat of the fire, the firefighter informed his captain that by this time he was now low on air, and therefore he had to leave. So the firefighter from engine 2 passed the nozzle to the captain engine 2, who was the victim, and exited the building with the other firefighter that was in the doorway from engine 28. Approximately 2 minutes later, the captain, who was the victim, informed the captain of engine 28 that they needed to leave because he was also running out of air. The victim and the other captain followed the hose line down the hallway towards the emergency stairwell. They got disoriented at this point. The victim, the first captain, told the other captain that I think we're going the wrong way because the hose line was laid through the common area near the elevators in large loops and was piled in the hallway. Intense heat, zero visibility at the opposite end of the hallway have made it appear to the victim that they had gotten turned around and were heading back towards the fire apartment and not the emergency stairwell. Captain of engine 28 disagreed, informed the victim that they were near the hose cabinet and they were heading towards the emergency stairwell. The captain, the victim, was disoriented. He turned and headed in the opposite direction, back towards the fire department on his own. The captain, who was with him, sustained burns to his wrist and lower back before reaching the emergency stairwell. So he was in pain. He was getting burned. This is only 5:09, so we're talking 10, 12 minutes since the initial arrival. The victim radioed, emergency, we need help on the fifth floor. Dispatch advised command that they got a call from help on the fifth floor, for help on the fifth floor. The victim radioed again, engine 2, we're trapped on the fifth floor, engine 2, help. Incident command radioed the lobby sector asking to confirm they've received engine 2's message. Lobby sector confirmed that they did, requested additional companies for rescue. A couple minutes later, Central Dispatch notified all companies they had a mayday on the fifth floor and toned out a third alarm to the call. Also, victim radioed again. We're trapped on the fifth floor. The third alarm was dispatched. 4 engines, 2 ladder trucks, a district chief, shift commander, and a cascade. Another minute later, the victim made his final radio transmission. Engine 2, emergency, and the rest of the transmission was unintelligible. Crew members from Engine 60 and Rescue 11 made it to the fifth floor to search for the victim. A tagline was tied off to the door leading into the hallway. Thermal imaging camera was found in the hallway by the captain of Rescue 11, not the one they just found, it's probably the one that got brought up and they never got. But when he attempted to use it, the screen went completely white. The captain and a firefighter from Rescue 11 heard the victim's personal alert safety system, and they located the victim near the elevators. The victim did not have his helmet or face mask on when Rescue 11, so probably out of air. When they reached him, they checked for a pulse, no pulse, not breathing. Additional firefighters now reached the fifth floor and assisted in the removal of this victim, the captain from Engine 2, first arriving engine. As the victim was being moved from the hallway to the stairwell, and this kind of goes towards this whole, RIT is not quick and RIT is not easy. Two firefighters, firefighters from Rescue 11 became separated from their crew, 2 firefighters. The 2 firefighters crawled into the service elevator area after running low on air, radio command that they were now trapped. This reminds me of the tests that Phoenix did. They did a whole bunch of scenarios in a big warehouse where they sent crews in and did RIC training over and over and over. And if I remember the stats correctly, I think it's covered in that safety training that that Blue Card does. It showed that 30 or 40% of crews that went in to rescue somebody ended up needing to be rescued if they went in cold from outside versus another crew that was already operating in the area. Anyway, firefighters were able to locate a floor plan posted on the wall near the service area. After determining the floor layout, they entered the stairwell and were able to exit the building because they had that floor plan and they were able to look at which way to go. Cause of death was asphyxia due to lack of oxygen. Carbon in the hemoglobin measured 18% according to the coroner. Initial thoughts before we get into the recommendations or comments?
Well, yeah, as you said, like RIT team is first of all not fast, but they had sufficient staffing on scene, so they got there relatively fast. I think I didn't follow really the timeline there, but yeah, as you said, like if RIT goes in, there's a high probability that they're gonna call a mayday as well. I'm pretty sure the recommendation is going to be like proper mayday procedure because help, or emergency. It's like
One of them.
banana,
Yeah.
yeah, it's banana, right? So that'd be probably one of the things there. Yeah, I'm not sure they didn't go into great detail on the fire behavior there because the high heat was in the hallway. They already entered the fire compartment. So I'm not sure if that wasn't the fire compartment, if there was a second fire. Maybe that's in the recommendations, and then they go into greater details.
Yeah, they talk about it in the recommendations. I think what happened was somehow one of the stairway doors was propped open, and therefore the apartment door was open when they attacked. They kept it open, and they didn't have a backup. They talked about laying another backup line, but I don't think they did. It never mentions another line flowing, and so they went in the apartment. their window was probably open, and the air just went into the stairwell. And they talk about the stack effect in chimneys, especially in high rises, because you've got this great tall chimney. So yeah, we'll talk about that in the recommendations.
And also, from reading this, they hooked up on the fire floor,
Yes.
as far as I understood it, and not in the hallway on the fire floor, but the hose cabinet. So you're in the middle of the hallway in zero visibility, high heat. Yeah, you get turned around, even if it's only a 4 feet wide hallway. And then because you're flaking the hose line, following the hose line might take a little bit longer, and you're not going to end up at the end of the hose in a safe area. That's the whole reason why you should hook up a floor below.
Yeah, yeah. They only hooked up 100 feet, and they did it on the fire floor. Yeah, which typically is not what we teach. But you know, don't know why.
I think as a department, well, staffing is a little iffy. I'm not a big fan of 3 people on a unit. I think 4 should be the minimum, but they operate in the sandbox they're given by the city, obviously. So, but I think they responded to the fire appropriately. They sent them out a correct amount of resources, which is good. Which is no excuse to not do that in a big city like Dallas. Um, I agree that it's very common in a big city for the drivers to not wear their turnout or bunker gear. But if you're only 3 on a rig, when you get if you're not going to wear it there, you should be, and you're going in like this guy went in. You should be suiting up before you go in. If you're, I get it. If
Yeah.
you're driving and operating and staying at the pump panel, you don't need all your gear on, especially in Texas where it could be plus 45. Um,
You would know all about
I would
that.
know. I've been there. Yeah. The something that kind of overall theme that this is showing me is something I know other fire departments suffer from is it kind of seems like they're treating a high-rise fire like it's a single-family dwelling fire. One hose line, like they're responding lots of units to it, but like those backup lines should just be like automatic. Engine 40, we're on scene, and it should just be like, okay, backup line. That's your task right now, right? Get your tack line going, get your standpipes fed if they're there, and get your backup line going. You need lots of people to fight a high rise fire properly.
And they probably the typical mindset, like bring the can man, we'll put it out, right? It's a pot on the stove, and they just went down that path that we don't probably need this. I mean, you saw the fire coming out the window. That means 1, it's vented, and 2, it's growing. And now you're going to open the hallway door, and it's going to give it either one way in or out fire. Yeah, I agree, absolutely. And so we get so caught into that. It's just another, we can
We do
handle
it.
this. This is
We've
the
done it
world.
all the time this way, and nothing ever went wrong. Well,
Yeah,
Yeah.
last week it worked fine. We put out the fire with a house line. Yeah,
Right,
exactly.
exactly. Yep. So, okay, recommendations. Good discussion, everyone. First of all, fire departments should ensure departments' high-rise SOPs are followed, and refresher training is provided. It's imperative that companies perform their duties as described in SOPs unless directed or approved by incident commander to do otherwise. According to the SOPs of the department, the following procedures should take place upon arrival of the first alarm companies. And this is all the stuff we've been saying. Send an investigative team, find out what the situation is, where it is. Second alarm if there's smoke visible from the outside. They did that. Investigative team tried to obtain a master key while on the second floor below the fire floor. Investigative team would check the suitability of the floor as a resource pool floor. They didn't do that. They didn't set up before below the fire. They investigative team identify the extent of the fire, identify the stairwells for fire attack, communicate information to command, and control the situation on the fire floor. Lobby sector, they talk about that. They talk about the backup crew would proceed to the fire floor. Well, they went to the wrong one. This is typically their third engine company that is dispatched. Floor above, another crew would go to the floor above to check for extension up there. Actually supposed to take extra air bottles and leave them 2 floors below the fire on the way up, and then go up to check for extension, report back. Top control sector would be the ladder company. Third ladder company, advance to a roof if a clear purpose and objective have been identified. One possible task would complete vertical ventilation if it was needed. But I mean, controlling this top stairway would be important. Rapid intervention team in Dallas, it was the 5th engine company dispatched, would be RIT. 3 minimum or 4 members, 2 floor belows the fire with extra air bottles, extra SCBA, forceful entry tools, extra attack line, RIT kit, etc. So they didn't follow all the procedures. So exactly what we just talked about.
I could see with the fire on a 5th floor, not really saying we need to do stuff on the 3rd floor and just leaving stuff in the like. I'm sure if it was on a 45th floor, it would have just happened. But when it's right there, I mean, it's almost close enough to the ground floor that guys might think we don't need a secondary staging area, which I can understand that. I mean, if you went to a building that was a 6th floor building with a fire on the 5th floor, you're not going to have stuff on the 3rd floor. So I can understand
Yeah.
not. I mean, they're saying that they should have followed those procedures, and I agree they should have followed all those task procedures and had the floor above team and the roof team and then this team. But I can understand saying we don't have to stop and leave our bottles on the 3rd floor. We'll just leave them in the lobby. No big deal.
Yeah, it's a big building, but the fire's low, so we'll treat it like a 4-story walk-up or whatever. Yeah.
Which would have been fine if they've done that, but the captain was waiting for his backup team, and then he still made entry. So it's kind of like, why didn't he wait another couple minutes?
Well, we had the 2 other guys, engine 28 and a firefighter, but no tick and no second hose line. They did help them take the hose line in, but they didn't have that protection line. They didn't have door control.
They also did the search. They already did a primary search on the firefighter, which is fantastic.
Right.
But they beat themselves up before they actually made entry, and that's when they're running out of air. So in the end, it was the low air that caused all this. Yeah,
Right.
it might be the little things. It's all these, Murphy's law. All these little things fail, like the tick isn't there and all this stuff. But really, when it comes down to it, I think it was just they were low in air, and then you panic, and it's hot, and you're in the flow path. So yeah, that was.
And then the second recommend.
There's all this talk about not having the backup line, but if you remember in your description of the incident, the crews on the outside thought the fire was on the 3rd floor, not the 5th floor. So there might have been a delay because of the confusion about like where are we going, especially when I mean it's easy to say, well, they're saying they're on the 5th floor, but it's still hard in your brain. Your brain is seeing the 3rd floor. It doesn't matter what you're being told. You're thinking, well, I'm seeing the 3rd floor is on fire. You must be wrong.
And they were sent to the 3rd. The backup team was engine 3. They were sent to the 3rd. So they did what they were told. And then all of a sudden, engine 28, who is lobby captain, shows up on the fire floor. And so the captain of engine 2 says, okay, well, here's 2 guys. Let's go. And no hose line, because the backup team was 2 floors below, and they got distracted by the civilian. They helped the civilian down the elevator and needed a key, right? Because the elevators were shut off.
They had backup on their attack line. They didn't have a backup line.
Right.
For me, that a backup line is a totally separate crew waiting to help them out. They had just 2 more guys on the hose line, which again is fantastic.
You need an authorized fire. You need 2 companies,
which you needed
on a line.
Yes,
at least
absolutely.
3.
But
at
they
least 3
have
people.
a backup team.
Yeah. If you're going to move and be mobile, I mean, yeah, you can do it with 2. I know nozzle forward, you can do it with 1. But I mean, to move around easily and stuff like that, you get old guys like me. We need 4 people on that line, or at least 3, and then 1
nozzle
direct.
forward. The department the nozzle forward guys on puts 2 engine companies on 1 line. So
Excellent.
Especially, I didn't see or don't remember you saying what size of hose they had.
1 3/4.
You mean you can maybe go with 1 company with that, but 2.5 for sure. You need 2 companies, but you should. To me, in a high-rise fire, even though it's on the 5th floor, you're still connecting below and dragging hose a long way. Ideally, you need a person at every friction point, right? So you need people on the nozzle and blah, blah, blah. In addition to this, is your companies here are short-staffed. There's only 3 people on them. Well, so it's even more reason why you need 2 companies at least on that 1 line.
Right. Now, remember, though, this captain had in his mind victim. He had victim. They were told there was a victim. They hadn't found a victim. They're looking for a victim. And that's probably why he said, you know what, 2 more guys are here. Let's open this door. How bad could it be? but they were out
I'm
of
a
air.
huge fan of the rig you're on determining the task you do. And if you're the engine company going to a fire, your job is to put the fire out. The ladder company or the rescue company's job is to find the people. And I'm not saying it should happen one before the other. They should be happening at the same time. The product should be
Right,
happening.
right.
There should not on a big fire department that sends 7 rigs on a first alarm. One company should not be doing 2 jobs. There's enough companies there that you could put the fire out and worry about that, and another company can find a victim. Even if you're,
And they sort of
you
did
can
though,
say,
right?
"Hey, truck one, we found the victim here. Come get them," and you still put the fire out.
Yeah, and they sort of did because they cleared the floor except for the fire department, and then they went to put the fire out. So they did both. Like I say again, there was a delay between engine 3 not getting there. Engine 28 was split up because they were doing lobby. Then they eventually got there. Yeah. So
But
and they
I
talked
agree with Doug because they did search first. That's when they run low on air, and
right,
then they went back to their
And the
initial
fire's
task.
bigger.
right, right. Which
Exactly.
did they need to do an apartment search at that time when you've got a sprinklered hallway, 3 stairways? You know, did they missed their mission? They went to rescue somebody and they didn't put the fire out. Blue card guys would say if you put the fire out, then the problem goes away.
Well, the sprinklers didn't go off either.
I get that it's different on a fire department where, like, maybe you have one staffed engine company backed up by volunteers, or you have one company that mutual aid's coming to help them. Like, yes, you're doing a lot by yourself before anybody gets there. But in an urban environment, there's companies tripping over each other. It's like they joke in New York City, the fire goes out because there's so many firefighters there to take up all the oxygen. There's none left for the fire. Well, that's a joke, but they're all there because they're doing all these tasks simultaneously, right? Like we
Right.
Dirk and I often listen to the Getting Salty podcast, which is 2 retired squad firefighters who come on working fires, and they always joke like, "How many guys do you need on the fire floor? At least 5 more. We're going in too, right?" You always need it, like, more hands doing all these jobs make it go better.
Yep. That's good. Good discussion. The other recommendation, number 2, was ensure that team continuity is maintained. So if you enter that hazard environment together, you should leave together. Here, the firefighter said, "Hey, I'm low on air. I got to get out," and the captain did not leave with him. He let him go out on his own. Another guy on the line then helped him, and so then we only had 2 captains on the line, one with a lot less air than the other. It was another big issue, which is just a culmination of errors.
Same in our last, the Hartford, Connecticut, exactly the same thing. Firefighter runs out of air, and they did not leave together,
Right?
right?
Yeah.
You see,
Exactly.
I mean, yeah, there's performance differences between individuals. Like somebody runs out of air earlier than the other guy, but overall, they all worked, so they are not at full capacity anymore. They're beaten up and they're low on air.
Yeah.
So
You can understand, though, when you're the only hose line there fighting the fire, it's hard to just shut her down and leave, right?
Yeah. For sure. For sure. Absolutely. Yeah. And
Supposed
I
to
mean,
all leave together, but I mean, maybe in a guy's mind, it's like, "Okay, you go, and as soon as the backup crew gets here, I'll come too, right? I'll be right behind you."
yeah.
When you're the only
Yeah.
line
Yeah.
there, it's hard on your in your brain,
Yeah.
right?
And then, like we talked about, recommendation number 3 talks about ensure personnel are in position to maintain an offensive attack. Go down into the thing. It says in one of the manuals they cite if arriving units have adequate resources to handle a situation, then they will fight the fire aggressively and offensively. They will attack the problem head on, following department standards and accomplish objectives, yada, yada, yada. If they do not have adequate resources, then they have to fight the fire in a defensive mode of attack until resources arrive. In this case, additional firefighters and crews did not reach the 5th floor to continue the initial offensive attack because the backup crew was sent to the wrong floor. The other firefighters ran out of air in the stairwell prior to reaching the 5th floor. Note, the firefighters were forced to go on air at the 3rd floor landing because the emergency stairwell was charged with smoke. So this could be a HVAC controlling issue, right? Um,
and there's your lack of staffing again, because as Doug said, you don't have the backup, you don't have everybody on a friction point, and you also don't have door control.
It was so hot that the sprinklers went off in the hallway. So at the one end, 165-degree head in the sprinkler. Lifelines, they talk about lifelines, which, I know lifelines aren't that commonly used in an initial attack type situation. That's where the hose line is, except the hose line was all in a spaghetti on that same floor, which led them to have trouble finding him. And the one recommendation I just pointed out, the one part of it there, standpipe connection in a high-rise building stairway is used. It would provide a means which access hose line may be flaked up the stairway above the fire floor before the firefighters enter the fire floor, keeping the excess hose out of the way. Flaking up the hose line would minimizing hose lines from becoming kinked or piled in areas where firefighters in operation. And in this case, they were in the hallway, so they couldn't find their way out because it, like you said, Dirk, it didn't lead to an exit. It just led to the middle of the hallway, I assume, where the sprinkler, the
That's why
standpipe.
the rig team had to use a lifeline, because you come up to that landing or in the stairwell, there's no hose line.
Yep.
So now, if you don't have a thermal imaging camera, I'm not sure what they mentioned. They found the other captain's thermal imaging camera, but
Right. Did
did the
they
rig
have
team
one?
didn't? But the rig team should
It's
have brought one,
it's a
right?
recommendation here. We're going to get to it.
Okay.
As soon as firefighters become lost or oriented, then number 5 is train people in Mayday. Uh, Lost, disoriented, trapped, unsuccessful at finding their way out of a hazardous situation, they must recognize the fact and initiate emergency traffic. Again, he's out of air. Out of air is a Mayday. It didn't get called until he was searching and ran up and down the hallway and became alone and lost. The Mayday was quite late. We need to somehow check our egos at the door, not feel bad to say, hey, I'm in trouble, I'm lost, I'm out of air, my low air alarm's on. Air management, again, a bit of a soapbox for me there,
A
but
mayday is just like calling a second alarm. You can't have them come faster, but you can turn them around if you
right,
don't need them, right? If, if you call a
right,
mayday
exactly.
early and then you
Great.
get out and you go, okay, I'm fine, you can say cancel them. I mean, make sure you say cancel the mayday. I've heard of fears where they
Yeah,
aren't canceled, they're searching for a guy that's not even there because he's in the lobby. But it's
yeah. Good
you
point. Good
can
point. Yeah,
cancel the mayday and say, okay, no, I'm fine, never mind. But you can't
yeah,
say, oh, I should have called it 5 minutes ago. Come faster. It's not happening. You can only get there so fast.
yeah, exactly. Number 6, established rapid intervention team is established and in position. Once a second team is assigned or operating in a hazardous area, the incident shall no longer be considered in the initial stage according to NFPA 1500, and at least one rapid intervention crew shall be required. Think of the BC thing within 10 minutes, or if you before you send a second crew into the hazard area, RIT must be there. I remember doing that during my the emergency scene management training that I took at the JI. This department, it's the fifth engine company on a first alarm, is RIT. This incident, the fifth engine company dispatched on the first alarm arrived at scene as the initial mayday was called. The engine company's response to the scene had been delayed due to the heavy rainstorm going through the area at the time of the fire. So they weren't there, and they'd already assigned 3 crews to the hazard area because engine 2, Engine 3, who went to the wrong floor, and Engine 28, who initially was lobby, him and his firefighter went up because, again, it was another 3-man engine. So they had lots of people in there and no RIT.
Well, to me, that's very common, though. I don't know if I completely agree with the rule that, like, you need writ before a second crew is assigned because, like we said earlier, if you're assigning tasks to crews, there's lots of tasks that need to happen simultaneously, right? And like in a big city like the it's gonna be there right away. The next incoming crew,
Yeah.
right? They can. I mean, and if the mayday gets called before they're there, it's not hard to just say, "Okay, now this truck, you go get them."
Mm-hmm.
Tasks change all the time.
I like it better when the incident commander decides the who's going to be RIT, and it's just like, okay, you're it, instead of always being whichever truck, because a lot of people don't want to be RIT just because typically you don't do anything. And so, if IC just says, okay, engine 4, you're RIT right now, and then, okay, engine 4, I'm going to set you to wherever, engine 3, 2, 1, 16, whatever, you're going to be my writ. I like it that way myself. Except that the IC's got to remember to assign.
That's why I don't like it. I like every task being predetermined based on the truck and the order you show up in. Right? You can get your mind in the game before you even get there. What you're going to do. You look at the building differently, knowing what you're going to do. You're just prepared to do what you're going to do because you're first, second, fifth due, whatever.
Yeah. So I mean, different ways
And
for sure.
lots
The
of
next
times the incident command either forgets to assign them or says, "Oh, this is a minor call. We don't need them. I don't need to worry about it." Where
Yeah,
take it out
yeah,
of their
yeah, yeah.
hands and you
That's a
just
risk.
say, "This truck's doing it every time." Then it's one less thing for them to worry about.
Yep, yep. No, you have a point there for sure. The next recommendation talks about the backup lines. We already talked about that they didn't have that backup line, and it says here backup lines should always be in place to protect exit routes, which they didn't have. Adequate members of staff are available immediately respond to emergency incidents. 1710, of course, says acceptable minimum, not maximum, minimum acceptable fire company staffing should be 4 on arriving engine or with each engine and each ladder company responding to any type of fire. Most of the engine companies and ladder companies in this incident were staffed at 3. Here we have a huge city with all kinds of resources, all kinds of everything, and they don't have enough people on their engines. In fact, the just last week, the fire chief of Dallas or the mayor of Dallas was asking the federal government in the states to give priority to buying chassis, fire emergency services to get truck chassis, because I know I was reading some other reports that many cities are having a real struggle keeping units on the road due to old units breaking down, difficulty getting parts, etc. I just saw a thing today. A fire department in Minnesota ordered 2 or 3 trucks, and they've been quoted 38-month delivery. Yeah, for a new truck. I talked to my cousin. He's a fire chief in BC. They're ordering a new truck, and they were told 30 months for a custom chassis. For a commercial chassis, don't even think of it. You can't get any. So it's like crazy. So anyway, adequate staffing. We keep coming back to that same thing. 4 people on a truck. I don't know what's so tough or why we can't get that through our heads, but
Oh, we can. The politicians can't.
It's
right,
the people running the city that don't want to pay for it.
right, yeah, exactly. And what happens is someone gets hurt.
I did check. Dallas has 59 fire stations.
Okay,
So then, as a fire chief, you have to weigh the thing. Do you, instead of running a 3-person company, do you put a rig out of service and just lose a truck to make other ones have 4? Which is the lesser of 2 evils?
right, right. Except you got an empty station then in a certain
Exactly.
area, then you can't meet your response
What's the
times.
lesser of 2 evils, right? Yeah, response time just
Yeah,
matters when the truck gets there, not when the 4th guy gets there.
that's a good point. Very good point. Yeah,
Then, so it depends on your area of response, like how many fire stations are within the area, right? I mean, Alberta, we are spread out like very thinly. Like we said this before, Doug. Imagine we would have the fire station numbers that some of the similar cities have in the states, we would have twice the amount of stations. So for them, I'm not sure about this specific department, but if they shut down one truck and put that staffing on other trucks, I don't think the response time would suffer that much. But
yeah,
at least they come with the
The
appropriate
problem,
amount
though,
of
like
people.
from the union standpoint, would be like then you're getting down a path of like that becomes normal every day to just put 5 trucks out of service, and then it's a slippery slope to go down where you're putting.
Yes, you set the precedence. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's called brownouts, right?
Which is very
brownouts.
common
Yep,
in the United States, right? And getting
yep.
more common in Canada, where it's not a decision I would want to have to make. I would, but that's why you got to grease up your politicians and tell them what the job entails and why you need the guys. And I mean, to me, that's the fire department's the fire chief's job is convince them why they need to pay for that 4th person.
Well, I think there was a landmark case in Sudbury, Ontario, about brownouts and staffing, and I believe the city lost. and they have to staff. There was a third or fourth station that wasn't staffed, and so they lost, and they actually have to provide a similar level of service in that other station, which is good.
It's
So
it's
go ahead.
it's a calculation like how much does it cost me to bury a firefighter, or and how much does it cost me to hire more so I prevent that death from happening, right? It's cold blooded calculation on the politician's part and the taxpayers. You got to sell to the taxpayers too, right?
Playing roulette, right? You just hope that it doesn't happen.
Gambling. Yep, yep.
But then if it doesn't happen, it's like, well, why do we have all these firefighters? They don't do anything. They don't die, so can't be that risky,
Yeah,
right?
like
Yeah,
the
it's a
station
two-edged
that
sword.
closed. The station. Well, didn't they just close the station in Florida in the Disney World, and then the other one at Nassau, right? Because they hadn't gone to a fire. Well, they've been doing other stuff, but no way. Back to this incident. The wind was a factor. They did talk about it. And the one recommendation I just wanted to point out here in the podcast, specifically for high rises, is that control of the heating, ventilation, air conditioning systems is needed. That needs to be, and that's something that probably needs some training. Hopefully there's a building person there or something that you can use to help you do the control that you want, control of the stairways, because of that the stack effect, if you will. And so they talk about that in here. UL's done lots of testing on high-rise fires, and they even use some PPVs to do demonstrations and stuff. The other recommendation is tick usage. At the time of the incident, the department did not have SOPs regarding the use of ticks, and they were only on. Oh, where is that?
It says right here they were assigned to all ladder trucks, rescue trucks, hazmat units, and the command van. So
but not
engines didn't have
engines.
them. Yeah.
Now, 2001, I mean, ticks weren't. They were just getting going. So I suppose
I'm
that
sure if
was
you
an
did
issue
a
there.
polling of today's North American fire service, I bet you most, if not every, like full time unit has a tick on it.
That's a good question to our listeners. Give us a little feedback in Twitter or wherever. Do your engines all have thermal imaging cameras and AEDs for the old guys like me? So give us some feedback on that. That's a great question.
And if they do, who has the thermal imaging camera? Is that a tool
Right.
assignment for a firefighter, or is that the captain?
Right, right. I mean, we had two on some of the units in Fort Saskatchewan. We had some little small ones for the officers, so we could do like a 360, and then we had the better one for the firefighters when they're going in doing a rescue or whatever.
But
Right.
you didn't have any staffing, so of course you have more cameras than people.
Exactly. That's part-time fire service. Lots of equipment, no people. Look at most of eastern United States and Canada, where there's big part-time departments with unbelievably beautiful trucks. I was actually in a department here in Alberta teaching a blue card, as a matter of fact, and I was in a rural remote station, and I asked a question we were doing, and don't have a RIT pack. And I had helped them buy over $1 million. This is 10 years ago, so it'd be 2 million or more today. A big aerial platform for one of their stations, and I'm out in this outlying station, and they didn't have. It was either a RIT kit or a tick camera or something. And I'm going, hang on a minute, you guys just bought like $1.5 million platform for that station, and this station doesn't have a tick camera or a RIT kit. Give me a break. Give me your $1,000 and we'll get you one. I think it was just the RIT kit. So not even super expensive. Anyway, and then the last one, of course, is processing alarm. 10 minutes had elapsed from the initial call out to the first arriving unit on scene in a city. So, there was obviously some delays here. The initial call came in at 4:43. It wasn't dispatched till 4:48. And then 5 minutes after the call, and units were 5 minutes because it was like 4 in the morning. So
Was that due to that storm that went through there? Because if they were all busy, if the units are all busy, who knows?
it doesn't talk about it at
The
all in
issue there,
here.
something got dropped by dispatch there. It's
Yeah,
5 minutes
yeah,
to push
yeah.
a button to say you have a fire. I mean, it took five
Yeah,
minutes drive time is normal. That's normal.
sure.
It's
Well, I believe the NFPA standard for dispatch
yeah,
is 90
yeah.
seconds.
So this took 5 minutes. Like
Yeah, so that played a factor in that the fire grew, etc. It broke out a window already, which laid into the complexity of the whole thing. So again, it's always a comedy of errors. excellent review. Final thoughts, anybody on this one?
I mean, I don't have much more to say than I haven't said, but it just seems like they little understaffed on the units, but lots of units went, and they, I guess, follow their procedures better. And it's important to remember going to a high rise fire that it's a high rise fire. It's different than house fires or single story fires. Like things just compound on each other. And it's like one thing goes bad at any fire and then five more things follow on, right?
Yeah, so I go with Chief Lasky, sweating the small stuff. It's like all these little things that you didn't pay attention to: thermal imaging camera, your BA, your air, all of the door control, assigning the proper staffing, all the little things that just ended up here and cost a firefighter's life. So
Well, who knows too? Like I just thought of this. We never even talked about it, but this fire department does 24-hour shifts. 5 in the morning is probably pretty close to the end of your shift. If they had a storm all night, they might have had a busy night. These guys might have been like 3/4 asleep and just forgot things, right? Like it happens. I mean, I'm sure
yeah,
we've all forgot something on the rig once, had to run back and get it or whatever. But it's most of the time it doesn't come back to burn you.
that's why the small stuff is important, as Chief Lasky always says. Like, it is important. Pay attention to it, and if you have to update
Well, that's
your
why training is
procedures, right?
important, so that when you are half asleep at a call, you're it's muscle memory. You just do it on autopilot, right?
Yeah. Training is the big thing, and repeating the training, command training or attack training or support training, anything. It's all important that we do it over and over and over again. 100%. So yeah, great. Thank you again, everyone, for and the team for participating and listening to the Emergency Traffic Podcast. We appreciate your interest in our podcast and hope you find this interesting and informative. Hopefully, it helps you do your job and keep yourself safe. Give us a star, a thumbs up, or on an app that you use to listen to these podcasts. It means a lot to us. It helps the algorithms for other people to find the podcast and learn about it. You can follow us, of course, on Twitter at Podcast Traffic, or our Facebook page, the Emergency Traffic Podcast, and on Instagram. You can email us anytime at the emergency traffic podcast at gmail.com.
Stay safe, everybody, and train.